Hello, Diegwich. Bonjour, buongiorno, guten tag, konnichiwa to all our Irish wrestling fans all over the world. Welcome to another episode and another special episode of the Road to All In series. For myself, Mark O'Brien, we got the White Bull, El Toro Blanco, Jerry Roosh. We've got the resident grump and contrarian, Colin Byrne, front row CB, finally joining us, getting on the road. He's 1 week late. He's a few miles behind us, but here we are ready to go to debate more relevant wrestling topics following another huge week in the wild, wacky, and wonderful world of All Elite Wrestling. Now, before we get started on anything, there is some unfinished business from last week. Jerry, the White Bull Rouge, did not give us a definitive answer as to who the actual winner of last week's debate was. I've no doubt, being the font of all knowledge within this circle and being the resident guru in all things wrestling and the most notional of the three of us, that I have no doubt come out the winner. So, Jerry, whenever you're ready, please present me with my award for the night.
And the winner is... It is Mark. You are the winner.
All right, thank you. Yes, I wasn't expecting that at all. I assumed
because you're a CM Punk, Mark, you get the points. That's the only reason. I couldn't justify my actions. I like CM Punk, but it's not as much as Colin likes the Elite. If you can see his Marky t-shirt there, I just happened to have it in the back of the wardrobe.
Just happened to put it on today.
It happened to be on today. I wasn't wearing it last night watching Forbidden Door, or
no, I was wearing
when this goes out Sunday night.
Well, lad, listen, obviously we've all had a very hectic 24 hours trying to catch up with everything that happened. Forbidden Door from the night before with AEW Collision, the night before that, AEW Rampage. For me, then watching Ring of Honor the night before that, then you've also got AEW Dynamite. So it's been a hectic 4 or 5 days within the AEW calendar.
You didn't watch SmackDown?
Apparently there was nothing to watch anyway. Apparently it was a dreadful week in the world of WWE. So there's plenty of wrestling to go all around. Thankfully, Tony Khan has provided that for us on our lovely sojourn into traveling towards Wembley Stadium at the end of this summer. Now, we're going to mix things up this week slightly. Last week it was myself debating with the White Bull, Jerry Roosh. This week we're going to be myself and Colin debating around some interesting novel topics around what's happening in the world of AEW. Over 5 points again, 10 minutes per point. We're going to be debating back and forth. We may have the same opinion on points, but at the end of the show, Jerry, who'll be acting as an impartial referee, he'll be deciding who comes out on top, who has had the most relevant, distinct points, who is not regurgitating points found from somewhere else online, who is the most original thought, who is the most nuanced debate. And again, I've no doubt I'll come out 2-0 on top. And then following that, we will then continue our predictions table as to what matches we think will happen at the landmark event All In at Wembley Stadium at the end of the summer. Colin, welcome along for the ride. How are you, my friend?
That's Mark. I'm very good. Bit tired. Obviously, we said that Forbidden Door was last night. Sorry, I'm just realising I'm having to put my camera up way too high, and it looks like I'm looking down at my screen because it's actually up on top of my other monitors. So I'm just going to move it very quickly, if it's not
just to show off the t-shirt a little bit more.
This one.
Oh, look. The bullets and everything.
That's a bit better. Yeah, good. Obviously Forbidden Door last night, so bit of lack of sleep. Long night, 5 a.m. finish, probably getting into bed about 5:30. So
I just got up at about 5:30.
Tired, and now on to speak about things that happened on the show, which is great. So I'll see if my memory holds up as well to see if I can actually remember the show. Due to sleep deprivation, but yeah, all good.
Amazing. Well, again, as I say, Jerry is going to be leading us on this journey. He's going to be introducing each topic before we debate it. He's also going to be giving us a 10-minute countdown, a 10-second warning before the end of each round. At that point, whoever is continuing to talk will have to stop, and then before we move on to the next point. So, Jerry, are you ready to get us leading into the action?
We are ready. Let's go for topic number 1, and we're starting the countdown. And 3, 2, 1. Now we're going into last night, or if you're watching this on Wednesday, it is Sunday night's Forbidden Door. We're going to talk. Colin and Mark are going to discuss the booking, the match placements, and everything that went on. You have 10 minutes, lads, so I'm not going to keep it any longer. Colin, I'll let you go first.
Right. So structure of the card, very good, very different style, but very well laid out, in my opinion. Apart from the buy-in, I thought the buy-in was too convoluted. There was too much on it. Not enough there, to be honest. Or not enough time. to have that many matches on a buy-in. For me, very clever with the MJF booking. I really liked it to get that on first, because then obviously the question is, why is it not going on last? So very clever for them to pull that during the week, and MJF saying, I want to get out of Canada. That was very, very clever in my opinion. In hindsight, match of the night, Omega versus Ospreay, probably should have gone on last. It was the match that I was most looking forward to. I understand why Okada versus Bryan went on last, but for me, I'd have probably said Omega versus Ospreay because I was looking forward to it more. But hindsight being 2020, it's easily looking back and being able to say that. That was the standout for me compared to the Bryan Okada match. It just didn't hit. I think the crowd was worn, got very quiet. There was crickets at times as well. Mark shaking his head. He's ready to go already. Go on, I'll hand over, Mark, at this point and let you jump in and debate my points.
Yeah, I agree in terms of the structure of the card. I thought it was very, very well laid out, and I thought typical New Japan fashions. Obviously, it's not just Tony Khan laying out these cards; it's basing it off with his work with Gato as well. So you're going to have similar type of matches to start off the show. You had two slower paced matches that kind of are also welcoming you to the show. So you've got MJF versus an aging Tanahashi, who's obviously got very physical limitations, and you've got CM Punk, who's also facing Kojima, but they don't have to do an awful lot in that match because they've already got the full buy-in from the crowd. So it's all about playing into that reaction, bringing moments that the guy Kojima, then who's a man in his mid-50s, can then look like he's going to get the upper hand against CM Punk. CM Punk plays into moments whereby he's doing impressions of his old friend Dave Prazak from his time commentating back in the Independence, doing his lariat, Kojima, obviously referencing Kojima's finishing move, the Hellfire Lariat. There was a few funny moments whereby Kojima dropped a massive elbow drop right into CM Punk's crown jewels. I thoroughly enjoyed that match. I thoroughly enjoyed the card from start to finish. There was only one match I didn't enjoy, and that was the second to last match out of it all. That was the 6-man tag featuring Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki. I didn't enjoy that because there was a few awkward moments, be it again for some Asian competitors. For 5 out of the 6, I think I would, or 4 out of the 6, I would consider aging, whereby they'd miss their timings, they get lost in the ring, and you just feel sorry for them. You don't get frustrated by it. You just think everything's a bit off, and it removes you from the environment. But your point in regards to, you think Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay should have gone last, I would understand that point of view. However, it didn't feel like the biggest match going into it. Didn't feel like the biggest occasion out of everything on the card. It was the best match. However, it didn't have the most anticipation and buy-in from fan and audience alike. By the time it got to the Bryan Danielson match, everybody was on tenterhooks and ready for it. Everybody was on their feet for 99% of the Bryan Danielson Okada match. I've watched it 3 times today. You were referencing that there was crickets in the audience. People were watching candidly and vividly, and it's a different type of wrestling. It doesn't have to be 100 miles in there. It doesn't have to be throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. The wrestling whereby both wrestlers are very methodically building a pace, building to crescendo, much like nearly all Okada matches are. They always build to a high pace, a high tempo finish. Now, obviously, the finish was negated by Bryan Danielson actually breaking his arm in the middle of the match, but everything built incredibly succinctly and scientifically to the point by both competitors were working on each another's body parts, building to a finish that was so technically sound and beautiful. That I thought it was absolutely incredible. I don't think anybody in the arena who was there, this is my impression from watching it live, everybody seemed to be, and everybody I've spoken to in various different groups, all thought it was absolutely perfect way to end a perfect show, for a show that is basically a treat for us fans, that is not being done for the storylines within either company. It has been done for dream matches. It's been done by a madman who's got a load of money, who just loves wrestling, and he wants to put on great wrestling for his mates and his fans and for his own amusement. New Japan are obviously saying, yes, absolutely, we want to build our own profile over in the United States, but this is almost being done as a gesture of goodwill and for optics and generosity from Tony Khan, much like when he's putting money towards obscene amounts of money towards Bryan Danielson's Final Countdown entrance. That's being done for a moment, for a pop, and also for Bryan Danielson. You can see him as he walked out from the entrance tunnel. He's suddenly embracing everything. He's suddenly forgetting he's a heel character and loving and enjoying every moment of it. He said in his post-match press conference that he hasn't actually heard that song at all in any environment. And I well believe it, because he's a hippie, that he hasn't heard that since his last time performing in Ring of Honor. So I thought it was incredibly beautiful. As somebody myself, I'm big into mindfulness and trying to take in every moment. When I go to wrestling shows, I try not to chant. I try to take in all the noise around me and really enjoy and appreciate the moment. I thought it was a beautiful moment. I thought my first impression from watching it was Bryan Danielson's going to be retiring soon. That was the first thing that went through my mind. It was calling it the final countdown and seeing him take everything in, given the amount of injuries he's had in the past year as well, particularly following the MJF 60-minute Ironman match. He's apparently struggling physically post that, and then obviously now he's broken his arm. So that was my view. Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match was absolutely epic. It was mental. There was so much going on. Don Callis did not need to be there at any point in the match. I understand why he was there, purely to protect Omega in a losing defeat. I don't see why he had to come out twice. Why couldn't he just do his run in late in the match? Why did he have to have two armed gimps with him? Everybody who watches AEW regularly would recognize both of those security guards as regular security guards. So he played them up as being armed, brought in armed military force, whereas in actual fact, if you watch the program, you see them pretty much every week anyway. There's a jacked guy standing at ringside, just happened to be wearing a face mask that covers half their face. But I understand to an extent why he was needed somewhat, and tying back into the storyline of Don Callis betraying Omega with the screwdriver, and it gives Will Ospreay an easy out for coming out on top. I did like that both of them came out to their old New Japan theme songs. Will Ospreay came out to his Aerial Assassin pseudonym as well as his theme song. Kenny Omega came back to his old cleaner music from his time in New Japan. I thought that was beautiful. Yeah, listen, I understand your point of view to an extent, but I do think that the right match structure and match card to send everybody home happy and to send everybody home on the right note was done today for that effect as well.
I think you're saying everyone going home happy there, but I have seen a lot of people saying that they weren't happy with how it finished last night. A lot of people saying that they did feel that they were taken out of it. I think the crowd, I know that you're saying that they probably weren't as excited, and that they were like maybe watching brief a bit more than chanting. But I think audibly, especially for the crowd at home, that doesn't, it only takes away from the match. It doesn't, you need that crowd interaction, you need that vibe, you need the crowd shouting and screaming to be able to hear that and to be able to get you up sitting at home. Again, remembering that there's, I don't know what the stadium holds, but let's say, I don't know, 40,000 or whatever was there last night. There's 500,000, a million watching at home, you know, so it's catering to that audience as well. And if that crowd is quiet, then the people at home are going to feel that, or not feel it in that case. But yeah, like there was a lot of good stuff about the card. I think they booked it very well interpromotionally as well. You could see that there was a few things. Cassidy getting the pin on Garcia, which was very prominent because it's another fellow AEW guy keeping the Japanese guy strong, and Shibata as well, who's from both worlds. Ishii pinning Yuta was another very prominent one in a match that there was a lot of big names in that match. It was very obvious that Ishii was the one that got the pin, you know, and it kind of keeping the others strong to a sense around them. The two non-obvious one-on-one matches as well. So Omega against Ospreay and Danielson against Okada went one each as well. So keeping that at level pegging. The one thing that I will say is, based on last year's show, I found that this show was more predictable. Based on, obviously, I predicted all 10 outcomes yesterday, and the other two lads didn't. Just want to throw that out there. It's on my Twitter, go check. Last year felt a bit more unknown, as if, oh, what's going to happen? Anything could happen here, but what is going to happen? Where this year it was like, oh, well, like, yeah, well, MJF's not losing, Sanada's not losing. You know, there were so many matches where, you know, like, oh, this person isn't losing. Does that take you out a bit? You can still enjoy the matches, but does it take you out of the matches a bit? Like,
it doesn't matter if it takes you out. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Going in.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is the rules of the game.
I don't like this.
10 minutes are
up.
I
don't like that.
You could talk for an hour about one thing, and it's not going to happen in this show.
I saw Mark getting pissed off at it last week.
Oh,
and I understand. I understand because
I'm sorry, everybody. If you were really looking forward to Colin's synopsis, well, we talked enough. 10 minutes is enough. As in the words of Botchamania and our Run DMC, You talk too much. Topic number 2. The curious case of Mr. Eddie Kingston.
Yes, the curious
And
little world.
before we
Oh, wait.
start, I'll start my clock and let Mark, you'll go on this one. And 3, 2, 1.
Yes, the curious case of Eddie Kingston, what I titled today. Eddie Kingston. Now, he's almost a walking contradiction as a man, as a wrestler. He's obviously a man with significant physical limitations as well as mental health issues, whereby that's part of the appeal for Eddie Kingston. He's an everyman. A lot of people look at him as the modern day Dusty Rhodes, and he has that crossover appeal in terms of he could be anybody from your neighborhood. He's authentic. He's himself to a fault. He's himself to a point whereby he's getting suspended because he's constantly picking fights and trying to defend himself. He's not good at playing backstage politics. Several times in the past number of years, it looked like there's moments where Eddie Kingston could have been propelled into a main event scene, or when he was at the cusp of being in a main event scene, pushed into a title fight picture main event. He's competed for a title with John Moxley when he first arrived into AEW, but that was also during the very start of the pandemic, where it felt like it was a bit of a throwaway match. It was a last minute booking purely because certain people weren't available to be at Daly's place in Jacksonville, Florida. There's been times in the past where he's been done programs with Chris Jericho, but I don't think there's one person who's ever done a program with Chris Jericho in AEW who's come out the better for it. That's obviously by decision and by choice from Chris Jericho. That's enough in the matter. Eddie Kingston had programs with Sammy Guevara, which suddenly were derailed because he attacked Sammy Guevara because he was upset that he called him fat on camera. There's also times where Eddie Kingston is due to be appearing at independent wrestling bookings across the world, be it here in Ireland for our OTT, in the UK for Progress Wrestling, and for one reason or other, be it health related or otherwise, has not attended. There's costs involved with that. There is a reputational damage both to the promotion and to himself as a talent and somebody who's looking to get booked worldwide off the back of that. He then, a number of months ago, suddenly disappeared from AEW television, claiming to quit on air. A number of weeks later, he reappeared, turning up on Ring of Honor television, the newly relaunched promotion under Tony Khan at the old home of Impact Wrestling, Universal Studios, Florida. He then entered a program with Cesaro. He had one of the best matches of the entire WrestleMania weekend against Cesaro, but off the back of that, then it disappeared once more. It then turned out that he was in need of having a hernia operation and hadn't been seen since. He returned a number of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, in fact, on the AEW Dynamite television, appearing in a segment where there was more twists and turns than a road to Dingle. I would say there was run-ins from every possible angle. My own opinion is not, we can get to later in the show. However, he had an incredible pop, a louder, more emotional reaction from the crowd in attendance than anybody else who appeared in that segment, be it from Kenny Omega to John Moxley to even the reappearing Will Ospreay ahead of his match with Kenny Omega. Is there essentially their go-home angle before Forbidden Door last night. Eddie has an emotional tie-in connection to the crowd that very few in the world do. And during last night's match, it became evident when he was part of that 10-man tag, when he was part of the Hung Bucks and Tomohiro Ishii, the strangest pairing possible for a tag team match, versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Konosuke Takeshita and Shota Umino from New Japan Pro Wrestling. The highest point in that match and the highest point in that show up to that point was when Eddie Kingston appeared in the ring and faced off direct face-to-face, had a pose off with John Moxley. Everything up to that point in the match had been like, oh yeah, this is a nice fun show. This is a novelty match, be it matches for the IWGP Championship, AEW World Championship, or other matches you think are just purely novelty or dream matches that you may not get to see. We may see at local indies somewhere around the world. Up to that point, it then became an emotional tie-in, an emotional angle where it's been revisited from a time when nobody could actually see that in person from a number of years ago. And it also felt like up to that point, Eddie Kingston was most over person on that show. The Young Bucks got a couple of high pops, so did Hangman Page for some convoluted over the top spots. John Moxley got a couple of high pops purely for some blood curdling type anger and violence that he's usually known for. But Eddie Kingston brought a different type of emotion. He got a natural guttural reaction from the crowd where everybody was delighted to see Eddie. No, you're going to stand up for yourself. You're going to fight John Moxley here now. Don't fall in line like you have done previously. I've been discussing with people today in a number of different groups about the case for pushing Eddie Kingston forward and if there is a possibility of him facing MJF sooner rather than later for the AEW World Title, being a main event program possibly for All In or All Out, or as a short-term program for somewhere on Dynamite down the line. There is obviously a huge want in a certain cohort of the audience within the AEW universe or galaxy or whatever they call themselves, whatever their cliche term is, that want to see him in that spot. They want that underdog, true everyman competitor fighting for them, fighting against the little shit that is MJF. And I think on television, that would be brilliant television in terms of back and forth promo battles. I don't think it would come off very well as an in-ring match. However, Tony Khan is in a very curious case and curious position now. What does he do with Eddie Kingston? He's got somebody who had the most natural emotional reaction of the entire show. I would argue last night, Eddie Kingston. But he also knows that he's not necessarily the most reliable employee and maybe not the most professionally behaved behind the scenes or in elsewhere in other promotions where he's got to carry the AEW banner. What does Tony Khan do? That is what we're discussing. Colin, I'd love to know your views on this.
Well, first off, I'll tell you exactly where Eddie Kingston can go. You can go back to Ring of Honor because that's all that he's suited for, in my opinion. He's a massive ego. He's toxic. I think all you have to do is look at AEW All Access. I was very surprised because I've been a very decent fan of Eddie. Like, he's come over here before. I've seen him wrestle. I enjoyed what he did. One of my favorite matches, Eddie against Thatcher. But when I saw him on All Access, he's telling Ruby Soho to go and shoot on someone in a match. Is, like, in my opinion, is it scripted? Is there some sort of script going on in that show? Possibly, but like, even so, you don't put that into a wrestling TV show, even if it is scripted. Like, that's just like, you don't shoot in a match. Like, that's 101. Like, you don't do it. You don't tell someone to go and do it. We talked about this with Punk before, saying that he thought that Hangman was going to do it. I think it's disgusting that he even said it. Never mind doing it. It's just something that you don't do. And I was very disappointed to see that on that show, even if it was a script. But I think Eddie has a very big ego. I think, is he a draw? Yes, to an extent. Is he a big draw? No, I don't think so. He's not MJF. He's not Moxley. He's not Jericho. He's not Omega. Should he be in the title picture? Give him a match and fuck him back down to Ring of Honor. Like, you know, I don't think he's championship material. I don't think he can carry the brand of AEW. Can he carry the brand of Ring of Honor? Absolutely. He had, as you said, Mark, he had one of the best matches of WrestleMania weekend. I really enjoyed that match, and I think that's where he's suited. He can tell a great story. He's a very good storyteller. We saw that with Moxley, as you said, that moment, creates that moment, tells that bit of a story. Him and Moxley literally chopped the shit out of each other for 2 minutes straight while chaos reigned around them. Very good moment, very good story. We've seen him and Moxley before. Like, we've seen it more than once. Like, I was kind of saying, okay, this is cool, but like, yawn, like, do it with someone else, maybe. Like, we've seen it, we've done it, been there. T-shirts have been sold for, you know. I don't think it was a good moment. I don't think it was needed. You could have put something else in there. You could have had that moment with someone else, maybe. But yeah, like, I think he's pushing. Even after the match, you could see him, like, he had to have the spotlight. The spotlight had to be on him. He had to be pissed off and annoyed about stuff. You just have to win in the match with your team. Like, what are you pissed off about? You know, are they telling a story there, whatever? I don't know, but the spotlight firmly had to be on Eddie. I think Hangman was the star of that match. I think the crowd got behind them the most. That's just my opinion. Again, the T-shirt's probably biased, but yeah, like, I think Hangman did the most, or got the most crowd reception in that match. And anyway, brought the crowd to life, did more than what I think Eddie did for his one moment. But I genuinely think Eddie thinks he's bigger than he is. You know, I don't think he's that big. There's a lot of people that went to that show last night, especially. I wouldn't say a hell of a lot of them went there just to see Eddie. You know, and that's, again, like, I'll give you back the last minute if there's anything there, Mark, that you want to come back with, but that's all I have to say about Eddie.
I would say just in your point about him post-match, he knows his angles constantly. He's non-stop working when he's on camera. He's constantly selling himself. He's constantly pushing his narrative of him versus Claudio, and he's constantly pushing the narrative of him having to face Moxie. He's really annoyed at that. Last year when he was against, he joined the Blood and Guts match the week beforehand last year. He was constantly pissed off camera that Moxie was unaware why he was up pissed off camera. It was him selling the fact that he didn't want to team with Claudio. So he's constantly working, even on the AEW All Access. He was really well behaved in every episode. That is a scripted television show, and the idea was around Ruby Soho trying to sell her rivalry with Time Mello. And he was saying, listen, if things go bad...
I'm sorry,
we'll
find out what he said. I'm sorry. You almost got to what he said, but you won't find out what it was. Okay, moving on from Eddie Kingston, we've talked long enough about him. We're going on to topic 3, which is Collision versus Dynamite Weekly. But before we do that, just a quick word from our sponsor, manscaped.com. Summertime is here, lads. It's boiling hot, it's sticky, it's moist. Everybody's got fucking sweat everywhere. What beats the sweat is shave them the man hair, you shave your balls, shave your armpits, shave your face, wherever you like to shave. Manscaped have brought out the new package, the Performance Package 4.0. The best below the waist grooming. Their product is a precision engineered tool for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the exclusive offer. Get 20% off, free worldwide shipping with the code IWE20 at manscaped.com. 8 million men, 16 million balls. It's a lot of balls that get shaved. They all trust Manscaped for all, this 4.0 package. You've got the Lawnmower 4.0, the Crop Reviver Toner, the ball deodorant, which I can't stop talking about it. I've got one. I've got another one.
You love sniffing your balls. You're sniffing your balls morning, noon, at night. Listen,
you scratch your balls, you sniff your hand afterwards.
Listen. I was shaving the other day myself. I was out over the weekend at a big, massive, swampy arse. Fucking the heat in town, gooch rash, the lot. Like Manscaped is going to be, it's a savior for me. So I'm delighted now.
And if you watched the show last week, you saw Mark's fucking gimpy Three Musketeers do. I don't know if you used the lawnmower to shave that off, but you did a good job if you did. Looks nice.
I can grow more hair than you can anyway, mate.
well, we could have a competition if you want. If you do grow more hair, you can use the Weed Whacker 2.0, the new nose and ear hair trimmer as well. Get rid of all them pesky itchy hairs. The package also includes free boxer briefs, which are the most comfortable boxers on the planet, and the travel bag as well. You can go on holidays if you're traveling to London for All In.
Love that travel bag. Travel bag and the Weed Whacker are my favourites by far. Yeah. The Weed Whacker is the shit. Like that new one is much better than the old one as well. Like,
you just love whacking weeds, do you?
Love whacking the old weeds. Yeah, that travel bag is a beast though as well.
That'll be leather. It's solid. It's not going to fucking, if something leaks in it, it's not going to get destroyed. You just give it a wipe out and it's clean again. But bring it to you at All In. We'll all bring our packages with us. So again, lads, like I said, join 16 million balls worldwide who trust Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, use the code IW20, get 20% off, free worldwide shipping. And again, thanks Manscaped for sponsoring the podcast. Okay, lads, so topic number 3, here we go. Collision versus Dynamite Weekly. Colin, I'll let you kick this one off in, hang on now, 3, 2, 1.
So Collision versus Dynamite, still very new, still very early. But from what we've seen so far, I look at last week, or the last week, the go home show felt very for Forbidden Door, felt very much like it came from Dynamite. Everything seemed to happen on Dynamite. I was a bit disappointed with what came from Collision. I was actually expecting a lot more from Collision with it being the night before. I think they blow their load on Wednesday instead, possibly. But yeah, I thought Collision was going to be huge this week with it being that first Collision go home show going into a pay-per-view. I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting a lot of drama, a bit of explosiveness. Like we got the announcement of the third man and the 3-on-3. It could have just been done a little bit better, add a bit more pizzazz and excitement to it rather than just it's whatever. Like it was just a bit flat. It was a bit flat for a go home show. The one thing that I was a bit disappointed with is, and I'm not sure what's happening with Collision or Dynamite. Are they splitting? Are they not splitting? Are they supposed to be splitting? We don't know. If they are supposed to be splitting, they fucked it already, because you have Punk going over onto Dynamite last Wednesday. Like, why was he there? Like, if you are doing a split, I get that you want to put your stars onto another show to do X, Y, and Z, but doing it in your first week, it just, for me, just didn't work and made me question it. Like, why is this happening already? Let it play for a few weeks, then maybe bring someone over for a once-off appearance or whatever. Doing it in the first week just killed that dynamic. Although it was, I suppose, wasn't spoken that is what was going to happen, or it's been speculated or whatever, but there's been no clear line on it yet. One thing that came across from the first episode is I really like the look of Collision, the camera work at the opening especially. And I think it kind of phased out a bit throughout the show then, but the opening, like, 2 minutes was really good. I had that different kind of style look to it, and I thought that they were going to keep it, but they didn't. They kind of reverted back to standard production. I'd like to see something, and I've said this about WWE for a long time as well, so it's not just an AEW thing. I'd like to see the two shows have something that makes them stand out. Do something in production, move the hard cam, make it look different, make it feel different, make it feel like I'm watching something that's not the same thing that was on Wednesday. And I've said this about Raw and SmackDown, like, do something with SmackDown, do something with Raw. One of the things that I was saying was maybe even bring back the tunnels on the entranceway. Like, SmackDown had the big fist when that started. It made it just feel that bit different. They had different Tron setups, Even that in itself made you feel like you're watching something different. You made it feel like it's its own. And after the first couple of minutes of the opening of Collision, it just felt like I was watching Dynamite with a different name on it. It's probably a bit harsh, but that's how it felt to me. I'd like to see it stand out a bit more. And I think with it being a new show, I think that the opportunity is there for them to do something like that and make it that little bit different. But again, who am I to tell the billionaire what to be doing? But going forward, who knows what's going to happen? I am personally more drawn to Dynamite. Again, Collision was basically Dynamite 2.0 for me, but again, and it's not even that the Punk Bucks kind of thing. It's just the way Dynamite went home on Wednesday compared to how Collision went home on Saturday. Just Dynamite threw me in. Collision was a massive miss for me. I'm not really looking forward to hearing one Bill Phil's diatribe every Saturday night either. So how much time he's going to get on the mic over there on a Saturday night? Do I want to hear it every now and again? Do I want to hear him go off every night for the first 20 minutes of a show or whatever? No, not particularly. Is it going to happen? Probably. He's their main drawer over there, but Mark's itching to go here. I can see him. I can see him.
I'm letting you bury yourself here, because you evidently didn't watch the show, because he didn't talk on Saturday. He talked the week before. The reason why it came across as similar to Dynamite, the only one thing between the two shows that came anyway similar, because they have an entirely different production setup, they have entirely different stages, entirely different commentary teams, different camera angles, a lot different lighting, different ropes, different absolutely everything from top to bottom. It's a conscious decision. The only one thing that was similar is Chris Jericho was on Dynamite this week, and Chris Jericho gets to book his own segments. He decided that he wanted to do another Chris Jericho segment twice in 1 week. That's the only thing, and he demanded he open the show. Now, the only thing that was distinctly different in terms of the structure of the card, that having Collision versus Dynamite. In Dynamite, you'll never have an opening segment with a promo. You will always have an opening segment with a match. Collision, they've done it 2 weeks in a row now, where it's with a promo. Chris Jericho being Chris Jericho, saw CM Punk did that last week, and he wanted to be, no, we're going back to Canada. I'm Canadian. I'm going to do that. And he's going to do the tired cliched tropes that Chris Jericho does on a weekly basis to make sure Chris Jericho gets over and nobody else in his angle gets over whatsoever. That's why it felt like Dynamite. Following that, everything from Swerve Tanahashi to Brody King versus Andrade versus El Idolo, Powerhouse Hobbs Squash, the Miro package, the Owen Hart Cup packages, where every single person laid out who they were, what their motivations were, why they cut me so much, and what they want to do with that Owen Hart tournament, to Scorpio Sky reintroducing himself, making him seem like a main event player. Everything is thought out, methodical, logical, physical, and not overly hit over the head with something like a million times like you would at WWE. It's not like Dynamite, we've got a million different things going on, trying to fit 20 things into a 5-minute segment where it's too much to digest. Collision so far over the past 2 weeks has already set itself apart as being the most unique program on any sort of wrestling program at the minute. WWE, for whatever reason, decided just to pack in this last week, be it Raw and SmackDown, and just put on two dire programs. And I know there's internal politics around that with Vince changing scripts and whatnot. But it also happened that in this week, you've had 2 matches, 2 main events, whereby everybody in those main events has been raised their level. And the one person who's done that through the structure of those matches has been CM Punk. FTR, Ricky Starks, Gun Club, Bullet Club Gold, Juice Robinson, and Jay White have all risen significantly. There's a reason why none of them are being included on Forbidden Door, because everybody was being treated as, we're starting from scratch, we're starting afresh with these people. For Collision, this is going to be like, even though there's no hard roster split, it is being treated as a new show. These are people who have been on the outskirts or politically held back for a while, and CM Punk, be it Ace Steel, whoever else is pulling the strings and coordinating the different structure of the show behind the scenes, and saying like, Miro, we need to bring him back. Andrade El Idolo, we need to bring him back. The House of Black, they're not getting enough TV time. Bring them over to Collision because they're better than 90% of the roster over in Dynamite. The Gun Club, they're the best young tag team in the world. They're absolutely incredible. They've had 2 huge matches in the space of a week with the Hardys, with CMFTR and Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks in the main event, CM Punk did not get one. The whole match seemed to be built around CM Punk, but it wasn't. That's only the perception. If you actually watch the actual match, the hot tag was for Ricky Starks. That whole match was about getting new people over, building that hot angle where you've got a fully established Gun Club, Bullet Club Gold, whatever their new pseudonym is. It's the most nuanced, structured show. It's got a very thoughtful commentary team with Kevin Kelly, who we're lucky to sit in on with last week. Nigel McGuinness, who thankfully is starting to drop his boring, labored WWE tropes from his commentary and starting to speak more freely again. You've also got small little details whereby they're shooting from outside the stadiums and outside the arena, showing where they are. You've never seen that before in Dynamite. I know it's a WWE type technique, but it's something small to set themselves apart from the other programs they're offering. And I know there's a huge amount of investment. I know Michael Mansouri's come over from WWE, and he's changed production from Collision, Dynamite, Rampage, everything from top to bottom. And that's come across through this whole weekend. I know the crowd, they had like 5,000 people at the crowd on Saturday for a 14,000 seater arena, but that crowd was loud for 5,000 people. You had the most polarizing reaction imaginable for CM Punk on Saturday. Like, you're spot on in terms of Dynamite feeling like the go home show for Forbidden Door, but it is. For Dynamite's been going for 4 years. Collision's been going for 2 weeks. Collision's its own new entity where you've got people who aren't competing on Forbidden Door. They had Tanahashi brought in to face Swerve because Swerve is like a huge star on the up, that they want to give a big spotlight to, and to put him with the face of Japan for the last 20 years in a match. I know Tanahashi's aging and whatnot. It's probably a bit loose having him wrestle 2 nights in a row, given how crocked he is. But it's also a show where you're giving people new time. I thought it was absolutely wonderfully booked. I think Tony Khan probably has little to no booking in terms of the structure and timing of the show. I think it needs
it doesn't matter what you think. The clock thinks everything. It stops all, it starts all. So you can think all you want, but that's as close to licking Tony Khan's ass as you're going to get.
I like the power that he has with his bone.
This is amazing. I love this for.
But it was even worse when I was debating him with this last week, and he could just stop me. I've no evidence of how long it's actually been gone. It's his watch. So this is...
Well, it's definitely 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to watching this back later and how you having 10 minutes on the screen, so I know exactly how I was spoken for. But anyway, let's go.
Well, if I can learn how to edit properly, I will do that.
God, yeah, anyway.
Okay, moving on. Topic number 4. Older versus young wrestlers within AEW. Now, age profile of senior stars, booking power of senior stars. Jericho, Tony's huge time investment in young stars thus far. Mark, this is something you've written out, so I'm going to let you explain what you want to, between younger stars and older stars, and what probably is kind of a lead off of what you were talking about Chris Jericho and Collision recently. So off you go in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, this is a slightly different topic and something I've been kind of keeping my eye on for a while now. There's a hint of WCW booking in AEW to an extent whereby there's a glass ceiling, it seems, for a lot of younger stars, unless you're somebody who's completely over the top like MJF or somebody who's got such a unique fan base and audience like Darby Allin. There's a huge amount of young stars within AEW who reach a certain point, they get to a certain level and they disappear for about 5, 6 weeks. And more often than not, it's when they've been placed into a program with a larger star who may lose the culminating program. However, that person who's lost, the older star, will still remain on television, but the younger, more up and coming wrestler will then disappear for a period. There's a number of wrestlers who've been on the cusp of absolute greatness. I take, for example, Ricky Starks when his promo in Austin last year leading up to his match with MJF is one of the most fire promos you've probably seen in AEW television in the space of a year. He then delivered an unbelievable match in a losing effort. Off the back of that, then he then went into a program with Chris Jericho that dragged the bloody arse out of it, and he went into the normal labors of Jericho tired program that he does. Ricky Starks won the blow off program, but it got to a point where nobody cared at the end of it, and all the heat was on Chris Jericho because he's the heel, where there's nothing on from the crowd wanting the younger person to come out on top. Now, my gripe with all this is that there's a number of older stars in AEW who regularly book themselves to lose for optics, I would imagine, but remain on television after they lost, and the person they've lost to disappears. This can be traced back to the very start, second week of AEW Dynamite. There was a match between the Young Bucks. This is just an example. I'm not saying they're guilty of this. There was a match between Young Bucks and Private Party, and it was supposed to be a launching point for Private Party. And every interview under the sun, the Young Bucks went out of their way to say, "Yeah, well, listen, we put over the Private Party. Private Party. It was in the inaugural Tag Team Championship tournament. Private Party won that match. Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn lost the following round and haven't done very little since." Young Bucks were featured weekly on television following that. The story is about the Young Bucks being on a losing streak rather than these young and up and comers climbing, trying to get to the top or whatnot. That's a repetitive cycle within AEW. There's people who have significant power, and you can even go back to when Cody was booking his own little Codyverse nonsense. I know he's obviously got the reins put on him in WWE and everything's been put into a more structured and directional environment, whereby when he was in AEW, he'd lose to Brody Lee. He'd then lose to Malachi Black. He would then go into programs whereby he's working with like the likes of Anthony Ogogo that we dragged out for weeks on end and end up nowhere and nobody's any better for it. This is a repetitive thing. Tony Khan has put a huge emphasis on young stars and building their own profile up from being nobodies to mid-card acceptable people who are more than willing and more than capable of being in high-level matches. However, they're never going to be considered a top line star unless these higher card wrestlers hand over a bit more of their own power. Tony Khan's willing to engage in dialogue in these matters. He's willing to put his foot down to an extent and say, listen, there's no point in having a roster. You don't want to end up like WWE. Look at WWE now. 90% of the people who are in the main event scene are over the age of 40. Like people are giving out about LA Knights not being the next big thing. He's in his 40s. Damian Priest in his 40s. Finn Balor's in his 40s. Seth Rollins is nearly in his 40s. Roman Reigns barely wrestles. Nearly everybody in WWE who's in a high level position is on the age of 40. AEW has a significantly lower age profile roster. However, the people that take up a lot of the main event spots or regularly feature on television are in a similar age profile. And if more often than not, you've also got the likes of Christian, Jericho, Sting, and a few others who are over the age of 50. So there is a give and take needed. Tony Khan, I believe, has to look at what he's doing long term. He's done a 4-year gradual build to the point where then you've got 4 of his young guns, 4 perceived pillars of his company are main eventing his flagship pay-per-view, which is the flagship pay-per-view. It's the inaugural AEW pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, this a couple of weeks ago. But off the back of that now, he's now having to rebuild Jungle Boy entirely as an entirely new character. Off the back of AEW All Access, he started to rebuild Sammy Guevara entirely as a new character. The only 2 established characters are MJF and Darby Allin. MJF should have been at a one-on-one main event with Darby Allin in that pay-per-view. For whatever reason, he decided to stick to his guns and have 4 people, and it became a lesser show off the back of that, trying to fit everybody in, trying to make everybody happy. That's my take on it. I think there's a lot to be done in terms of overhauling that roster, but he's got to balance it out with having some experienced mainstream names. I know he's got the likes of Bryan Danielson, who wants to lose to everybody despite winning last night. He goes out of his way to lose to Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, several other wrestlers along the way. But there has to be a lot more done in terms of having wrestlers who are willing to not just lose, but put people over and keep people over within AEW.
Yeah, I absolutely agree for the most part. They haven't done enough to build up those younger talents. As you said, that there is a glass ceiling for them, and there's only a small few have broken through. Overall, I think that the older generation, they are doing well. They add to the show. There are a few things that I don't like though. Like these guys have had their flowers. They've had 20, 30 years in the industry or whatever. Their main job, in my opinion, and I talk like people like Jeff Jarrett, Jericho, Sting, the Hardy Boys, although I reckon the Hardy Boys are probably going to win the tag titles and then elevate someone by dropping it to them. That seems to be the way that they go with things. They've done it in WWE before. And CM Punk as well. Those few names, like they've had their flowers. They've been at the top of the game. They don't need to be like constantly being put over and not bringing. They should be dragging the guys up with them. It should be their main job. And letting them shine. And again, that goes for everything. And I'd say that includes announcing and commentary as well. And one of my pet hates at the moment is Tony Schiavone saying, "It's Sting." Right, it's great, Schiavone. We know you just go back a long time, you're our mates or whatever. But like to quote like Adam Cole and MJF, like shut the fuck up, Schiavone. Like Darby Allin is right there beside him. He should be your job to get up there. Everyone knows who Sting is. Yeah, it's grand. Do that, but then you're not doing it for Darby. You know, you're not dragging him up with Sting either. You're focusing on Sting, giving him that big announcement, and it's like, oh, and here's Darby Allin as well. You know, it doesn't fit. Like Sting's in his 60s, 64, I think. He doesn't need that pomp and pizzazz. You know, Darby does need it. He needs to be dragged up to that level, and the announcers and the commentators should be doing that for him. They should be helping him to do that. They should be elevating him up. One of the other things, Jericho, Jeff Jarrett, never off the mic. What is going on there? They're never off the mic. They're standing there with their teams and they are always talking shit. It's like you pass the mic to someone else. Like it doesn't always have to be you. But like Jericho has an hour on Fridays. He has an hour every Friday where he does not shut up on commentary. Like use your Friday to talk your shit. Give the mic to someone else on Wednesday. You know, it doesn't always have to be you unless you're dragging them up. And I don't think he's done that. I don't think he's done that enough. You have two great talkers. I don't even know what are they still called 2.0? Like they should be talking a lot more. A hell of a lot more. They're both very good talkers. Let them talk. Give them the mic all the time. Why is it Jericho? CM Punk, huge draw, absolutely. I understand that he is where he is. He's yet to put someone over big. That's my opinion. I haven't seen it. Was he going to put MJF over? Probably. We didn't get that match and we didn't get to see it. So he's been there. How long is he there? 2 years. We still haven't seen him give someone that rub and that push to like get up there, you know. I'm sure they all have booking power. I know what you said there, Mark, that you don't like that. Like that kind of goes with the territory of wrestling, in my opinion. You have Tony Khan, who was lapping up everything that they're giving him as well. Tony Khan's a big fan. He's obviously watched these guys for a long time and he's loving what they're giving. So he's obviously going to lean on them and take their opinions and advice. And, oh yeah, Chris, if you were telling me to do X, Y, and Z, I'll do it. And I think that's where that comes from. Tony's done a great job in bringing the younger talent up to that level. Like the Four Pillars are a perfect example. Again, MJF has broken through. Teams like the Guns, the Acclaimed, women like Britt Baker, Toni Storm, Willow, Jamie Hayter. They're all the present and the future going forward. But there's still that reliance or over-reliance on these older guys that he needs to say, right, enough of you, or not even enough of you. You need to take a step back. And Sting and Darby Allin is the perfect example there. Jericho as well. Take the step back, let the other guys flourish a bit more. Like they should be coming up onto your level. They should be having the big matches that you're having. It doesn't always have to be those guys in that spot. and it just becomes very monotonous. It becomes annoying to a point to be seeing this constantly over and over when you have the talent, the amazing talent that's there
I'm
that isn't
sorry.
getting it.
Sorry, we won't get us into the amazing talent. We ran out of time. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It's the red buzzer. It just jumped up into my hand. I couldn't help
You're
it.
enjoying it too much, though. You're enjoying it way too much.
I like,
Just
kind of
to
like family
caveat,
fortunes.
we're kind of nitpicking on that point, and it's just a very interesting topic that both me and Colin like it. But they're doing a million times better at building up new talent without having than WWE. WWE Performance Center, they can't create anybody. WWE are having to rely on social media megastars to be paid to come in to do jobs, or musicians to come in and get themselves over, or bring back retired legends. And even at that, AEW do a better job than WWE. So that's just
They have AEW have tried that as well. They have reached out to people, megastars. They have had Mike Tyson, Snoop Dogg
Goldberg.
and matches, and Shaq, and they've had
Yeah.
that reach, but they haven't kept it going. It's like a once-off appearance, and like the Mike, obviously Mike Tyson's had a few, but like Shaq was there, and when it was over, it was over. Like there was no lead up, like the way that Logan Paul and people like that are fans, and they want to keep going. Like obviously they're training, they're younger, and they have time to train and perfect their craft.
There's also a 40-year ingrained audience who will attend everything under the sun.
Oh yeah,
WWE, particularly when Logan Paul, Pat McAfee, you can say, oh, and Bad Bunny, oh, there's a 40,000 seater stadium show coming up. Yeah, I'll turn that, no problem. I'll do a couple of weeks training leading up to that, whereby AEW are still a challenger brand, and you're having to
absolutely
build up public consciousness and awareness. These are nitpicking points, and we're debating something. It's a necessary evil. We all know that you need to have these older stars on TV purely to kind of build up your audience. But that's again, it's just a topic me and Colin wanted to kind of touch on today.
Anyway,
it's very much a small few things that are just more annoying than anything, and like it'd be good to see them tweak them a little bit.
No, the buzzer has sounded. We can't talk about it anymore. Sorry. Topic number 5, or final topic this week. We can go back under. He's been mentioned a few times throughout the show as CM Punk, the week that was. You have 10 minutes to talk about whatever he did right, whatever he did wrong, what he wanted to change about him. Specifically Colin. I'm sure Mark wants to change very little about him, but we'll see about that. Colin, I'll let you lead off because I know Mark's got probably 2 years worth of talking about CM Punk. He'd love to talk about it.
I'll give him plenty of time.
Okay, lads, topic number 5, CM Punk. Let's go. 3, 2, and 1.
So look, I am tempted just to train the clock here and not let Mark out a word in, but I won't be that evil. I will try to keep it brief though. Will one Bill Phil or one Bill Egomaniac? That's what I'm getting from him. The last week was tough to watch. For me, I'm not enjoying him, and like just to let people know, like I was a massive Punk fan in WWE. I was really excited when he came back. As expected, he hasn't been the same since he's come back. I think people big him up too much. I think he needs to find the lane. Yeah, he's a draw. I don't think he's that good anymore, in my opinion. And that is just my opinion. I know people will hate me for that, but I just think that the ego needs to be checked a bit. He went home on 2 shows, Dynamite and Collision. Oh, he didn't talk on Collision. Well, he had a promo package, and he had a match. Like, he was on both shows, so that shows his ego to be on both. In my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion, he had one of 2 bad matches at Forbidden Door. There was 2 bad matches. In my opinion, his match against Kojima, they never got out of second gear. There was no uptick. There was no, okay, now let's switch it into the next gear and we'll build the excitement up here. It was we never got that, or I never got that. I didn't feel that excitement lift. It was very static the whole way through. The other match was the women's match, by the way. I just don't think Willow was ready for that match yet, to be honest. But Mark said to me the other day that, and I'm sure he's going to mention it, that Punk is going for this Bret Hart 97 thing. Like, he's going to be hated in Canada or loved in Chicago or hated everyone else or wherever the way it is. He's loved in Chicago, but he's far from Bret Hart 97. He wishes he was Bret Hart 97, and that to me is the ego coming out. Like, what are we going to do? Have Collision in Chicago every second week? just to appease the ego of Phil. I just don't get it. I don't like if it doesn't pay off in a match against the Elite, I don't see the point in them doing it. And like that's like I just don't get it. Is it a new character trait? Yeah, great. Right, it's been done. MJF has only been doing it recently in Long Island. I'm going to come out as a big face in Long Island. Like, it's not as if it hasn't been done. So yeah, I won't get into it too much. I'm not enjoying Punk at the moment. I think he has a massive ego that needs to be checked. He hasn't elevated anybody, as I spoke about in the last point, and I think I just expected a lot more from him by now. I know he's had a couple of injuries, but like he's just not doing it for me. And again, tell me when I'm telling lies, you know. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Mark has a good 5+ minutes here now to tell me why he loves him.
I'll tell you when you are telling lies right now, because I don't think you've watched his actually matches then based off your comments there. So I don't think you've watched him at all in actual fact. If he based on his past 2 matches, the whole matches are based around elevating other stars to make him equitable faces. People on his own teams, FTR and Ricky Starks, are significantly further leveled up than they were a couple of weeks back. Ricky Starks was struggling to get any sort of TV time. Now he was the one getting a hot tag midweek. Gun Club, they're being presented as a huge force in ring, working with CM Punk, working with FTR in a main event with the best 8-man tags I've ever seen. I thought it was absolutely incredible match and roundly applauded and lauded online for being absolutely amazing, and how technically astute and psychologically astute and psychologically correct it was in terms of building up other stars. You talk about you don't get the Bret Hart 1997 thing. The character is he's going to be himself, and he's going to be a bollocks. He doesn't necessarily have to lean into a stereotypical lane for a wrestler. He doesn't have to be. He's going to be himself. He doesn't have to say, "Well, I hate you all because I'm a bad guy." He doesn't have to come out Christian, who's posting photos recently at Toronto Maple Leafs games, but then also going on AEW Collision saying the Maple Leafs suck. I hate you all. Like, there's a complete contradiction. He's going to be himself. He's going to be a diehard. Tell me where I'm telling lies. I'm going to speak my mind. This is me. I'm putting my feet in the ground. I'm going to stand here, fist raised, and fight everybody who comes at me. There's a lot to be admired. There's a lot to be hated with that, and that's the character he's going with. Now you can go with the opposite of that, where Cody did the Codyverse, where he's going to be a tweener. I'm never going to turn because I love you all. That's the opposite things. You could do the let's go Cena sucks thing that John Cena and Cody essentially did, but this is something completely different. The Kojima match you're talking about not being there, I think you may have watched this with the sound off, because the crowd were already there before he's even come out. The crowd were vociferous in their absolute detesting of him. And vociferous, good word, isn't it? Yeah. He went out of his way to slow everything down as possible. He was standing in the corner doing a 10-punch count to Kojima, counting in 10 in Japanese so the whole crowd could hear it. He was then, again, as I mentioned earlier, Lariat, Kojima, trolling everybody in the arena. At the end of Collision of the last day, he trolled the audience, slagging the Toronto Maple Leafs because he's a big hockey fan. He's trolled everybody. Anybody, he loved it. He went out of his way to troll Eric Bischoff on Saturday and Sunday. Eric Bischoff has gone out of his way to say that he is nowhere near the level of Hulk Hogan, so he's coming out and doing. That's the whole reason he did the boot and the leg drop. And not many people picked up on that. Our friend Phil Lindsay, who's on the program recently, did though. However, the Bret Hart 1997 thing, Bret was a bollocks everywhere he went, bar his hometown. It's nothing new. So essentially, CM Punk is a heel. Like, there's nothing overly nuanced. Wrestling is not just black and white. It doesn't have to be a child's program like most of WWE stuff is. You don't have to be, but we're a family and we're a tribal, and the tribal chiefs have come and given me flowers, so I have to bow down to you. All that stereotypical contrived bollocks nonsense. This is real life. And you're right in terms of if it's not building to something with the Elite, but he only mentioned the Elite in his very first promo. He didn't mention the Elite on Wednesday. He didn't mention anything to do with the Elite this past Saturday. He's very much building to a program whereby he's seeing Jay White as his equal. He's just had a huge confrontation with Samoa Joe, and he hasn't had a match with him in a long time. There's so many different elements that it's naturally building to on that show. He's also got the likes of Andrade El Idolo. He's brought back into the company, brought back into the folds. I think the summer ahead and the programs ahead, be it if it's CMFT Tricky or whatever they're calling themselves, against the Bullet Club Gold or the new Gun Club, Guns Up, Bang Bang Gang, all that kind of stuff. There's a huge summer ahead, and it doesn't have to be beat you over the head stupid. It doesn't have to be contrived million miles an hour wrestling. It can be just simple fuck you, I don't like you, let's fight. This is what I stand for, that's what you stand for. He sees posting online, seeing that Jay White was seeing him as a younger version, referencing to a TV show whereby CM Punk was faced off with Jay White, and then the very next story it was a similar thing from a television program. He sees a lot of Jay White. He sees that level of shithousery, bollocksology in him as well. Somebody who's willing to take the piss and put themselves over at all costs. He was trolling Meltzer and Brian Alvarez during the week. Brian Alvarez put up one of the funniest tweets I've ever seen in my life during the week. He said, CM Punk is in the building for CM Punk arriving at Dynamite. I quote Twitter saying, man arrives for work. Like, he turned up for his job. What's the issue with that? People then go out of the way. I left the building in a bad mood because somebody turned up for work, did a 2-minute run in at the start of a show, said, I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm a collision guy. But apparently that pisses people off. If you're that much of a snowflake, I don't know what's going on with you. And I know that's a controversial term, but anyway, he is good for business. Everybody he's worked with since returning has been elevated in my eyes. The whole program he's essentially devised with the help of Ace Steel, Tony Khan, and whoever else has made it to feel like the most unique program on wrestling television currently. You don't have to like him, you don't have to hate him, but he's not Roman Reigns. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's not the guy. He's somebody who's going to draw eyeballs, and that's already been translated to in ticket sales and viewership. Whereby the very first week of Collision outdrew AEW Dynamite in the key demos as well. So, and I'm sure when the demographics come out this coming Wednesday, it'll be much the same as it was this past week. I think he's good for wrestling. I think there's a huge amount to be gained from him. He came out recently in an interview this week with the Toronto Sun saying that I have problems. I'm a guy who can't go without saying things. I need to say something. It's me to a fault. I'm articulate, I'm talented, but I can't be problematic. And that is exactly, he's fully aware of what his issues are. People who come from unstable upbringings often result in that kind of way whereby they feel like they need to have some level of control. He's obviously falling into that category, and he's obviously the type of guy who probably hasn't addressed a number of his issues and has bled over into his life. He's obviously an incredibly loyal guy where he's defending and making sure his friends come back to work with him, despite whatever the fallout off the back of that is. He's obviously the guy that if you betray him or betray his trust, he's going to never talk to you again and go full scorched earth. But overall, as an individual, adding to eyeballs, viewership, monetary value, perception, be it that whole bill thing from David Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, he's supposed to be a very controversial figure. The fact that they've now invested into giving AEW another 2 hours of primetime television, that is a direct result of CM Punk.
Time's up. There's a lot of talking about CM Punk, Mark. I don't know how you didn't take a drink or a breath there. You didn't breathe once.
No, don't need breath. Wim Hof.
That's the 5 topics of this week. We got through them, regardless of how warm it is. And there wasn't too many fisticuffs. I'm not sure if you're going to bash each other online or troll each other or each other in person.
It depends what you come out with now. Who's come out on top of this now? I swear to God, Jerry, I might come down to Cove, regardless how muggy and sweaty he is. I might fucking see those Navy skills and
pretty muggy here.
Very muggy, yeah. Well, listen.
We'll close off the show and we'll get to the results. So I'll let you do the closing segments. First of all, Colin, what did you think of your first appearance in the passenger seat on the road to All In?
Yeah, it was good. Enjoy the concept. It's good to debate a few different topics. Very just a bit of a shame that it is very CM Punk heavy this week, which I'm presuming a lot of it probably will be in the run to All In. But yeah, I love the concept. I think Mark, great idea here, and I think something that we could have running even past All In as well. Like maybe give it a breather for a couple of weeks and then bring it back for something else. But yeah, I definitely like the concept, and love a good debate. I think I was saying this to Mark earlier on. I think it'll be very good in person. So I think we may have to arrange to do something at some stage as an in-person thing. But yeah,
in front of a live audience.
Oh, stop! No, you couldn't do it in front of a live
Throwing
audience.
There'd
be more there.
Give me a mic. Give me a microphone. It may escalate to violence, but I'm.
You stand behind one of them. Do you know the fucking shields that the president all stand behind? Like
the meshes from Roadhouse on the stage, so they couldn't throw glass at them.
Yeah, you need something like.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
someone would
well,
definitely throw something like.
somebody might throw something at us now. Colin, before we go on to Mark, have you had a chance to think about a dream match or maybe just a match for All In that you'd like to see
Listen,
off
like
the
I've
wall?
a million dream matches. I'm not gonna go too outlandish. But yeah, just one that I saw maybe come to fruition last night. I'm not sure how prominent it's gonna be or if they'll be able to get him back over. But Zack Sabre Jr. against Orange Cassidy, maybe a title for a title match. I think there was maybe I tweeted it last night. I said, "Is this a tease?" I don't know. It wasn't. I don't know if it was meant to be a tease. But yeah, definitely a match. I think I liked the two guys. I liked what they did last night. Um, would they be able to do a title for a title? There's a bit of politics involved there as well. So maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, definitely a match that I'd love to see the two guys have a one-on-one. We saw a little bit of them last night, and I think I'd like to see them have a nice one-on-one. And even there was a little bit of a tease with the three boys in the ring with Shibata there as well. Like could we get a triple threat with the three? I don't know. But yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. against Orange Cassidy, I think, and a match that I would very much love to see. And I don't think would be too outlandish getting Zack Sabre Jr. over to have a match in Wembley either, you know. So yeah, that would be one for me.
Yeah, that would be an all right. I know they've had a few matches before in the Indies before AEW even started, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they were both on an OTT.
Sure they've seen each other at some stage
They were
throughout
both
history.
on an OTT card together, were they?
I No, I don't think so. I don't know. Orange Cassidy was out. They were both on OTT, but I don't think they were on together.
No, definitely done. I've seen clips of them online doing stuff, outside of AEW and probably before AEW. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, moving on.
Go for it,
You're dragging the arse out of that. Anyway, and along the same lines of train of thought, Bryan Danielson last year at Forbidden Door was supposed to face Zack Sabre Jr. Unfortunately, due to injury, he wasn't able to. Bryan Danielson has been very clear since he joined AEW. He had 3 outstanding dream matches from New Japan Pro Wrestling. 1 was Kazuchika Okada. Number 2 was Katsuyori Shibata. Number 3 was Zack Sabre Jr. I believe my pick number 2 for attending AEW All In will be the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. That is my pick. And Jerry, will we give you a pick even though you're supposed to be an impartial judge? We will.
I'm impartial, but I got
gun to your head. Let's go.
Will his arm be okay by All In?
He'll be in the Blood and Guts match in 2 weeks' time. He'll be fine.
You think?
Yeah.
With a broken arm.
Yeah.
Fractured, isn't it? Fractured in the one of them.
8 weeks.
Yeah, he'll be there. 2 weeks, guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm going to go down the lines of Colin with Orange Cassidy. Not with Zack Sabre Jr. though. Just a off the wall, funky, multi-man match. It seems to be the booking decision with Orange Cassidy at the minute. He's always defending his title in multi-man matches. So it's a mute match. It's a match where people don't talk. There's going to be no promo build up to it, and there's no talking leading up to it or during the match. So it's going to be Orange Cassidy. Now this is in the UK. It's All In, so all promotions are included. Obviously not WWE. So it is All In. Anybody, doesn't matter if you don't know who they are.
Gary,
they're invited. All in.
Jerry.
So it's just a dream off the wall match. Mark, let me speak now. I've got the button. Orange Cassidy versus Karen Noir versus the Sam. In a triple threat match for the.
Do you know what? And you can cut this into a short again. Fuck the Sam, yeah.
Oh no!
Fuck that guy.
Not the Sam. Sam deserves it. He's gonna be
huge.
He's gonna be huge. In the words of
Sam's
he's gonna be huge.
That guy is a crook, a menace. He takes liberties with people trying to do him favors. He goes out of his way to troll them online then afterwards, whereas I'm still struggling with PTSD off the back of a pie-related assault. So if that
he's
guy
only having the crack, like he's grand.
He misled me and embarrassed me in front of millions and millions of Irish wrestling entertainment viewers.
You're taking it too harshly though. You just need to calm down. Like he sound like he really is. Like he's really nice.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I've never heard him talk, so fuck that guy.
Orange Cassidy thinks he's
okay. Orange Cassidy. Well, listen, that was another obviously a solemn end to the evening. Having to bring up that dickhead, but anyway, listen, that was another really really enjoyable episode. Before we before we get into the results, rather, I really want to. Last week, Colin, I decided to add in a little extra segment, a wrestling trope that annoys me from AEW in particular. In triple threat matches, why is there no disqualification, and why isn't the person who breaks the rules ejected from the match and then goes to a singles match? That was my trope last week that really annoyed me. When you think, yeah, that would make sense. The other one for me in particular, like having seen that in the 6-man tag last match or the trios match last night, why are tables allowed in normal matches? Why are people allowed to be put through tables? They're not being used as a weapon technically, but you're still using to inflict damage on people. That's my trope for the week. I hope people can mull it over, ruminate on it, try to improve your wrestling mind as to why these stupid tropes are included in generic modern television wrestling, as they influence all lovely independent shows going forward off the back of it as well. We should remove all these stupid acts of violence and focus on in-ring product, in my view. But anyway, that's me. I'm a crank. I'm also a know-it-all. So if you want to come at me, let's fight. Jerry, please reveal who the winner is for these 5 sterling rounds of back and forth debate and common sense.
Well, if you think you're a crank now, you're wait till you hear this. We're not going to find out who wins until next week. You will get the results next week. If you want to find out who won, you tune in next week.
Jerry, this is going to be a long summer. Anyway,
yay.
Listen. Fans, people watching this program, please let us know what you thought. Let us know how much shite do you think I'm talking, how much gatekeeping do you think Colin's doing, how much shithousery
for AEW. Jesus, I fucking love it.
Is his Fed color showing? How much fun is Jerry having with that stupid little red button? We're not sure where he got the button from. Have you seen the damage a bomb can do? Blow your face in the side of a tree. If you know where that's from.
I know where you live.
I know where you live. That ominous northern accent that sometimes creeps into a nice Cork accent down in Cove. We're on the road to all in, folks. Look at our eyes. What do you see? We're IWE and we're on the road to all elite. Thank you for joining us. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.